Right. So welcome everyone to today's webinar on retirement planning in your 20s and 30s, brought to you by Alive Credit Union. I'm Hali Hagist, a certified financial counselor and a certified master practitioner of financial capability. And I'm excited to share with you the importance of starting early and some strategies that you can use to secure your financial future. So let's dive in. Really quickly, I'm going to be moving through this agenda today. We're going to talk about the importance of planning for retirement, the benefits, how to set goals, which is a really important skill to know, some strategies that you can use, obstacles that you may face, and how to get over those obstacles, and then monitor and adjusting as you go. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, feel free to use the chat. So, here's a few statistics for you. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average retirement age is currently 62, but many Americans, most Americans, are continuing to work past that age. Planning early is going to give you the freedom to retire when you choose. Vanguard's How America Saves report shows that individuals who start saving for retirement in their 20s accumulate significantly more wealth by retirement age compared to those who start in their 30s. And roughly 1/4 of Gen Z don't expect to be able to ever retire, according to a recent McKinsey and Company study. So there's the doom and gloom for you. It's important to know these statistics, but also know that there are ways to conquer this fear that we have in our mind that we're going to work and work our whole lives and never have anything to show for it. So what do we need to do? We need to start early. So as you can see, this guy's over there, he's trying to do the math. The biggest benefit of starting early when it comes to retirement planning is compound interest. So what is compound interest? Compound interest allows your savings to grow exponentially over time as you earn interest on both initial principal and accumulated interest. What does that mean? That means that as time goes on, it compounds, so it builds upon itself. So if you started with 5 now, the interest would be on $5. If you had $5 more, next time your interest isn't on $5, it's on $10. So that's compounding interest. You can multiply your savings or debt at an accelerated rate if you use compound interest. Compound interest is calculated on both the initial principal, of course, and everything else that accumulates. So it's interest on interest. It can, depending on the products that you use, it can be daily compound interest, monthly, quarterly, or annually. Those are the types of things that you would look for when you're looking for a retirement or an investing product. So here's an example of compound interest. I'm going to have some side-by-side views, okay? So if you were to make $45,000 of annual income and you are 20 years old, and let's say that you're saving 6% of that annual income and you're expecting a 6% rate of return. Now, a 6% rate of return is pretty low right now. And a lot of places have a match starting at 6%. So if you were to start at age 20 at an institution that had a 401k program, you'd actually be saving 12% of your annual income because you'd put in 6 and then give you a free 6. And then you'd be getting back an additional 6% as your rate of return. So as you can see, at age 65, if you only put in that 6% interest with compound interest, you'd have $623,000 when you retire. And that's in a really secure investment vehicle. That's not something that's extremely risky, like playing the stocks or trying to manage Bitcoin. That's just kind of like a guaranteed rate of return. Here's another example here. If you did the same exact amount of income, $45,000 a year, which is a little bit more than our current socially accepted minimum wage, which is $15 an hour, that's a little bit more than that. and you didn't start saving until you were 30, but you still put in 6% and you still got 6% rate of return, you would only have $322,000 when you retired. So as you can see, that's half almost what you would have. Now you have 10 years of that compounding interest that you're missing out on. So the earlier you start, the more you're going to have. Of course, that applies to anything in life. The earlier you start, the better it's going to be usually. But it even more so applies when we're thinking about retirement. So even if it is just 6%, personally, I put in 10% of my annual income. I have, I believe, 6% matched by my employer. At that point, I'm saving 16% of what I make off my annual income, and then getting, 6% is a low rate of return. So I'm getting about 11% right now. That multiplies very quickly. So it's important to know where you want to go to get where you're going. So obviously we know that we want to retire, but what does that retirement look like? What do we want our older years to look like? And it's a really fun thing to consider and plan for. Do we want to have grandchildren that we take care of or can assist with the needs of, either by babysitting or by helping with their educational costs or maybe their sports, their interests? Do we want to be able to travel and just travel the world wherever we want to go and not worry about our finances? Or do we just want to feel secure and plan to leave generational wealth for our loved ones? It's important to set those clear goals to know, because it's going to ensure that you're on track to meet your financial needs in retirement. So when we're going to make these goals, we want them to be SMART. So I have an entire webinar on this you can check out. But SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So it's a framework that you can use to make any kind of goal in life. But really, it needs to be specific. So an example here would be, I want to retire at age 65. So I will save 10% of my income starting next year at my raise date or my annual review date and going forward, et cetera, et cetera. So you're putting in there why it's relevant. You're putting in there something that's easily achievable. Sometimes when you set goals that are too lofty, we get disappointed because we don't reach those goals and we quit. So you kind of have to play around with human nature. So I also have an example here. A study by Retirement Clearinghouse found that individuals who set a specific retirement savings goal are more likely to save for retirement. For example, setting a goal to save 15% of your income each year will help you stay on track. And that's a study by the Retirement Clearinghouse that's pretty popular. So here's some strategies that you can use to start reaching those goals. Once you know what you want your retirement to look like, you can kind of see how much money you would like to play with, and then you can start working to meet those goals. So here's 3 separate strategies. You can use employer-sponsored retirement plans. That's going to be your 401ks, your 503bs. Most employers also will offer a match if they offer a 401k, and that's going to match the percentage that you put in. So it's essentially free money. It's doubling what you put in usually, and it's extra income that you would not get unless you use the program. So it's free money. You just want to be aware of the maximum amount that you can contribute each year. Aim to maximize your contributions to take full advantage of the tax benefits as well as the employer matches, but going over the contribution limit isn't necessarily going to be beneficial to you. So once you meet that limit, at that point, try to look at divesting, looking into different ways that you can diversify your portfolio. Another resource that you can use is an individual retirement account, such as a traditional or a Roth IRA. So what are the big differences in between Roth and traditional? So there are 2 different types. And the difference between the two is how they are taxed and when you can withdraw from funds. It's also important to know that there are also annual contribution limits and deadlines for contributing to an IRA. So the biggest difference, like I said, is those tax dollars. Roth, you're going to pay the taxes up front, and traditional, you'll pay it whenever you withdraw it. So if you go to withdraw from your traditional IRA right now, you are, first of all, going to most likely have to pay a fee because you're too young to withdraw if you're tuning into this webinar. But also, you'll have to pay taxes, whatever the taxable rate is for that year, for how much you take out, and that is structured. So that's something to really keep in mind. You don't want to touch those IRAs until you're past that safety window. You can also use health savings accounts. There's triple tax advantages with HSAs. They offer tax-deductible contributions, so you can write it off on your taxes. It has tax-free growth, so any interest that you make within that account is tax-free, and you have tax-free withdrawals for qualified medical expenses, of course. It makes it a powerful retirement savings tool. You can also meet the limit on this each year and have even more money growing. So if you max out this is the exact order I do it. I max out my 401k first, or my 403b. I would then max out my Roth. Your 401k will be in the form of either a traditional or a Roth. You can do both. I would recommend that you do both. And then once you have those full, move to your third bucket, which will be your health savings accounts. So Fidelity Investments research shows that individuals who contribute to both a 401k and an IRA have higher retirement savings balances than those who only contribute to one account, of course. So what are some common obstacles when we're in our 20s and 30s and we're thinking about retirement? So the biggest one that comes to mind for me is our student loan debt. Now, a lot of us are deferred right now or have been forgiven, but if you're not one of the lucky ones and you're making a car or half of a house payment to pay down those student loan debt numbers, consider consolidating your loans or refinancing at a lower rate, or you can use income-driven repayment plans to free up more funds. And when you free up those more funds, put them directly into your retirement because it's going to be tax safe. And earn interest, of course. It's also important, I just want to note here for you guys that if you have not yet gone to the government website and requested for income-driven repayment plans, majority of the time you're going to have a very low payment, sometimes $0, $10, $50. You can also request deferment if you're doing continued education, if you've gone back to school, if you're looking for your master's or your doctorate, or you're still looking to achieve your bachelor's, you're going to be able to defer those. As long as you are in deferment or have met your minimum payment for 10 years, your student loan debt in the United States will be forgiven. So it's really important to keep on top of that. Another hurdle that we can all face when it comes to planning for our retirement and what type of funds we can set aside is going to be inflation. So right now we have a lot of inflation issues happening in our economy. So what happens with inflation is we start to have a lifestyle creep, is what people call it. You want to resist the temptation to increase your spending, especially if your income is growing. So maybe you feel like your income is growing because you're getting a raise, but the cost of living is also going up due to inflation. So if you increase your spending, you're not going to have extra money to put towards your retirement savings. So if you have more money, more income, that should mean more savings. We don't want to take our inflation raises of a few cents here and there and use those to live a lifestyle that isn't going to give us our dream retirement. So that's just something to keep in mind. Um, if you successfully balance paying your student loan debt and saving for retirement and managing that lifestyle inflation or that lifestyle creep, you're going to be able to reach that goal. It's going to be no problem. I feel so sad that some people feel like they're not going to retire. So, with all that being said, especially about raises and bonuses, it's important that as you go through life, you go in and you adjust what your plan is. If your plan is just reaching that contribution limit of a 401k or 403b, and then going into your IRAs and then going into your health savings, eventually you're going to want to do more. If you have more, do more, then you can start having some fun investments. And there's all kind of investment vehicles that you can look into. Real estate is always a great investment in the state of Florida. For as long as Florida has been here, we have had people migrating to Florida to live in Florida for our amazing climate. It's the number one retirement destination still in the United States of America. So if you're able to have an investment property, I'm sure that you'll be able to make money off of it. But you have to have enough money set aside to do fun things like that. You also have fun options like NFTs and EFTs, and of course, Bitcoin, which is the newest hot sensation, right? So it's important to adjust your plan as your life and financial situation change. You can use personal finance websites like NerdWallet and The Balance to use retirement savings calculators, or you can log on to a live credit union's website and just search retirement calculator, and you'll be able to find the same thing. That's actually how I created the side-by-side compound interest demonstrations for you today. Both example A and example B is off of the Alive website. You put in the information so you can really play around and see what it takes to get to that goal. So as things change, you can go in and plug in new numbers. It'll also help you track your progress, and that's really where it's important to pull your quarterly and annual statements when you get that email that your quarterly or annual 401k statement is in, or IRA statement. It's important to just look at it, know how much you have, know what you can do to kind of change that. Maybe you need to make different adjustments. So at that point, you can definitely reach out to a professional and see what you can do. So let's wrap this up. The six biggest takeaways for you today is the sooner you start, the more you save because of compound interest. Interest building on interest. You want to create a solid retirement goal, what you want your life to look like, how much money you would like to have in the bank. You want to use multiple strategies to reach your goals, and you're going to overcome obstacles when you get to something that feels like, I don't know how to get past this, just keep pushing and find your way around it. If you need extra assistance, you can always reach out to the free financial counselors here at Alive Credit Union or to a licensed professional who can sell retirement products, somebody with a Series 6. You can also monitor and adjust your plan as you go. It's very important. So what's the next step if you want to reach your goal? Well, go ahead and put it on paper, create your plan, communicate it to your friends, family, and loved ones. I'm working really hard for my retirement. Hey, what's your advice? What have you done? What have you seen successful? What have you seen that hasn't been successful? You can kind of gauge it off of who you ask to, and then start pursuing it. Don't give up if you get off course. Communicate your progress. I remember calling my mom last year around this time, and I said, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you won't believe this. I'm doing so well." And that's such a nice call. So make sure that you do that. Also, reach out if you need support. It doesn't matter who it is, as long as they're an accredited professional in finance. Reaching out to friends is always great for some things, but when it comes to our finances, it's best that we talk to licensed professionals. I will say these are three books that I really found beneficial when I started my journey for retirement. My favorite one being TikTok sensation Vivian Chu's book, Rich AF. It gives you all the hacks as to how people who are rich in America use their money to make money. I also love The Psychology of Money, which really tackles lessons on how we tie spending money to happiness, especially in our culture here. And then How to Money is a great, just like basic, like, what does this mean? If you didn't understand what I meant by compound interest today, you can reach out to me, of course, or you could look into a resource like How to Money. So, thank you so much for attending today. Remember, if you need any assistance in the future, you can reach out to your credit union for all your financial needs. I'll be hanging back for just a second. Thank you so much, Dina, for joining. And if you're watching this replay on YouTube, be sure to email me hhagist@alivecu.coop or leave your comment down below and we'll monitor it. Thank you so much and have a great day.